Yeah, game one. Game one was pretty cool. It was a 6-pull from Tythorr, followed up by a cannon rush from Goro. Next game. Let's see what happens in this game. It's time for game number 3. In the bottom right of the map here on Frost, it is none other than our blue Zerg, Tythorr. Not going for the light blue this time, just a straight blue. At the top of the map, his opponent also on the right side, it is our green Protoss, TND's Goro. Frost. Now, the thing about Frost, there's a lot of things about Frost that are very obvious and inconvenient. Namely, the giganticness of the map. The giganticness of the map here on Frost actually means that a number of strategies become a little bit less effective than others. Specifically, a lot of the swarm host styles that we've seen from players unfortunately lose a lot of their edge on this map just because swarm hosts are really good at locking down a specific area, like say this corridor here. But that's only really effective on a map like Habitation Station, where that actually deals with the majority of the movement on the map. And you can just kind of keep an eye on the other spot and maybe deal with it with Lings or just good positioning against the Protoss player. Here, that's not as going to be as effective because the Protoss player can kind of just walk this way and go around you. He can leave pylons up here. He can start harassing you from all sorts of directions, and it just becomes kind of an awkward mess. So a lot of players won't go for that on this map, but on the other hand, the structure of the bases, the positioning of the third here with this cliff, not to mention the bit of airspace at the edges here, it does make for air plays to be particularly powerful in against some players. So you see a lot of people will go for that. Mutalisks is a Mutaling, Baneling is a common choice here. For Protosses, it's pretty much just the usual standard fare. I mean, I think honestly either of their normal air or ground styles tend to work pretty well here. Not to mention that the largest of the map makes hiding proxies very good, but it limits their effectiveness a little bit to stuff that would go later in the game. A 2-gate, for example, proxy zealot cheese is much harder to pull off in this map because you can't be guaranteed of where your opponent's going to appear, which is part of the reason why a lot of Zergs will go for more greedy hatchery plays than they might on a lot of other maps. Yeah, Tythorr is definitely spamming the APM, going all the way up to 150 at the moment. Goro is going up to about 100, dropping down occasionally as well. I gotta say though, honestly, I don't think it actually helps you very much. It's still funny nonetheless to look at. Okay. Well, we got a cannon. Forge expands here. This is actually a fairly economic safe non-economic. Sorry, this is actually more the like over safe version of this, where you get the Nexus after you get most of the stuff necessary for the wall off itself. It's grabbing a lot of gas up here though, and it doesn't look like we have any probes hiding pylons around the map. So while this might have been set up to go for a fast tech play, that is not going to necessary here. Ironically, it works out though. Zerg grabs some Lings around at the front of the base. He's not going to find any entry here, though I don't think the Zealot actually walls that space off completely. I'm not 100% certain about that. In any case, down comes the Nexus, and here we go. Making our way into the next stage of the game. Both players have grabbed their naturals. Zerg, of course, grabbing it a little bit quicker. Still continuing the drone up. Let's grab the Roach Warren, not producing any roaches out of it, just has it in case he needs it. Oh, I take that back. There's a Roach right now. Not really sure what he's intending on accomplishing with this. Maybe he wants to go for some kind of 2-base play this time. It'd be interesting to see nonetheless. Gotta wait and find out. I actually do wonder about this spot. I really don't know. Like, that looks like it's just wide enough to allow Lings through, but you can never really tell. Like, might not be. In any case, not enough Lings. Like, it'd need a pretty large amount just because they'd get stuck on the Zalt for a second. So, if 6 tried to go through there, they'd actually just get annihilated. But, it is what it is. Cybernetics Core coming out, and pretty much the next thing we're going to watch for is pretty much, does Tythorr go for a hatchery soon? Because he's actually already a little bit late on that if he's planning on grabbing a third. Or is he going to go for a 2-base play? And, of course, what tech is the Protoss going to pick? And honestly, in this case, the tech may actually be a response to whatever Tythorr is going for here, planned or otherwise. So I think we're going to see something pretty soon here. We've got the lair forming up here. Still no third base. That's pretty important, guys. That lack of a third base means just a lot less production overall for the Zerg. No macro hatch to fill that out. So as he fills up these two bases, he's going to be maybe a little bit unable to actually spend all of his money. But it nonetheless does give him the ability to get certain types of tech out a little bit quicker than he would have been able to otherwise. Beerless are a good example of this for one. And yeah, it looks like we're having just a simple Hydra Roach play. Okay. Perhaps transitioning into Spire later. Maybe a fan of Jadon is among us. Robotics play. Robotics facility coming out here from Goro. This is most normally going to transition from here into either a Gateway, Mortal All-In, or into a Colossus play in an attempt to grab a third. Pretty much just want to watch for what he grabs next. 1, 2, 3, 4 gateways, so he's not exactly set up for that aggressive play if he's looking for it. Does find the hidden pylon on the high ground here, as well as grabbing a third base. A little bit late from Tythorr, but still works out nonetheless. And an observer's now out on the field. 3 gateways in the high ground. Nothing particularly crazy going on just yet, and yeah, he's chrono boosting out an Immortal and going up into robotic space. So it looks like our Protoss player is actually aiming to go for either an extremely rare and old Colossus 2-base all-in build, or he's gonna go basically standard macro. And I'd say, you know what, that's cool. For now, Tythorr is actually in a position to, with a small army that he has here, at least deny initial attempts to grab the third. It's not going to be enough to hold out like an Immortal, a few Sentries, and a Colossus though. So this is still well within reasonable time frame to actually grab that third. A lot of players would have grabbed it by now. It's a little bit lighter on the defenses when you do that, to be a little bit more precise. But grabbing it around 10, 11 minutes still makes sense. Nice shot from the lane as he just scouts forward, sees the defenses, but doesn't see anything extra. 4 Stalkers coming out here. Now, this is something that I'm actually not too much of a fan of, just using the gas on the Stalkers like that. Well, never mind, he has 1,000 gas. Okay, so we're just looking at something which is inefficient in general, but still works out. Oh. There are certain numbers of gateways. Oh, that's the second Robo. Huh, so double Robo, 6 gateways. Looks like he's just going to push from here into Colossus deck. The thing is, he doesn't quite have the resources to actually make use of that. I think if he wants to go for War Prism. Okay. So this is some kind of attack that he has planned here. You almost never grab a War Prism this early if your intention is to actually grab a third. And it looks like Tythorr is just going to back off from here and go back home. Which, all things considered, not back home, okay. Just going to hang out around the middle of the map. Not, What's this here? We got 1 Stalker picked up. Okay, that was just an accident. It's not doing anything with that. It's grabbing Colossus. Now, this is where we're actually kind of a weird situation for Goro. If he wants to get a 2-base attack done, he actually needs to do it now. And if he waits too much longer, the Zerg economy is just going to get to the point where he'll just have way too much when the attack actually shows up. It can work if the person's been making enough mistakes, and it seems that Tythorr hasn't been exactly on top of getting his drones out. And he just said derp. Alright, I missed something. It's got speed overlords though. That's fancy. So Speedy Overlord's going to want to... Whoa, what? Sorry, don't know what happened to the camera there. Speedy Overlord's just going to park itself up here, try to get an eye on the army. 4 Sentries in this army, decent number of Zealots and Stalkers, plus 1 Colossus. And the army's approaching from the south here at this angle. Derp for me. Ah, he hit the supply block. There it is. Sorry about making a screen move on you down there, but 100, 100. Never a fun place to be. 4 pylons just about to finish. Gonna have a big warp in. I think actually both players are about equal in terms of their micro at the moment, because we're still seeing about that close to 20 supply difference, and there's 2 Immortals walking past the army that somehow gonna get annihilated and gonna run back home and actually might die. Oh my god. No! Oh my god, 8 health. Well, at least he didn't lose anything, but that's definitely not the way he wanted that to go down. And if anything, he did see the presence of an army right there. Here we go. Things gathering at the base. Still a pretty small army, all things considered, and actually with the number of Colossus coming out, with nothing to back up the Colossus, this is actually going to be a little bit difficult for Tythorr to engage in there unless he gets up there fairly soon. He's not going to have range, though, so the Colossus will have to engage on top of the army in range of the Hydras. Now, looks like we're going to have our fight before those 2 Hydras come out. I really, actually, should consider pressing the issue. No, Goro, no! Don't break the rocks. It's not a good idea. Okay, he's not he's thinking about, the rocks don't fall on you, dudes. Okay. I don't know. Whatever. We got a base coming out from Tythorr here in the bottom left. Grabbing his 4th, should be grabbing his 5th soon as well. A lot of players will do that, it's just not the reasoning that they can take both. It's hard for the Protoss to really get rid of both. Those 2 Immortals are still hanging out in this nearly destroyed Warp Prism. And both players are feeling just kind of ginger about engaging each other at the moment. Like, I don't want to do that. I want to do that. I want to make it happen. 4 Colossus now in the field. This is actually way too much to engage on this position with. That's actually, like, this army down here, if it tries to engage up this ramp into a bunch of force fields, it really, really could get annihilated. Especially once range is finished, which, do they have that yet? Yeah, they do. It was finished, okay. 1-1 for the Protoss, 1 attack for the Zerg. Slight upgrade lead for the Protoss. I would say pretty normal in the situation. No, okay, the Warp Prism finds the army once again, is backing away immediately. 2 more Colossus coming out. And honestly, actually from here, really, Goro should be considering moving up in High Templar tech. Getting much more than 5 Colossus is really difficult to deal with, just because the Colossus themselves will bump into each other and prevent them from engaging, so it's like you really only have 5 to 6 Colossus at a time. So when you go up above that number, you're actually just making your army a little bit less efficient. It's kind of like having, what's a good analogy really, probably having too many Stalkers. No, that's not it. What am I thinking of? Well, this is different. Tythorr is choosing to set up a base and a bunch of ground defenses here at the front. He's going to force the Protoss to engage into this. Still, the engagement area does kind of favor the Protoss a little bit with this ramp here. Neither player really wants to engage the other, and Tythor's going to take advantage of that by basically setting up his position right here. Warp Prism's moving out. Gets completely destroyed. Thankfully left its Immortals behind this time. Didn't almost lose them. It's a lot of Zealots in this army. It's actually fairly formidable from the Protoss. He really could move out anytime now. But... Oh, Protoss actually got 1-1-1. Grab the shields upgrade, look at that. He must have forgotten his Twilight Council. It's a sign of somebody forgetting the Twilight Councils if you see the shields upgrade research before +2 attack and defense. Anyway, finally starting the engagement here. Colossus are moving forward. Have annihilated the Spore Crawlers here at the front of the base. Spore Crawlers look like they're actually taking out the detection in the army. I think the Observer already went down there, working away against that Colossus actually, being surprisingly effective in that manner. Ooh, look at those green force fields. Doing a decent job on the Zerg army. Zerg army is going to back out from here, and he's not going to push the issue. He's going to let the Protoss go up to a 3rd base. And actually, this is a potential opportunity here for the Zerg, in that the Protoss is reaching about the point of a maxed army. When I say a maxed army, you might be like, it's not 200. Calm down. It's alright. It kind of is, because the biggest defense against attacks in multiple locations for Protoss is Warpins. So when you push yourself into a situation where you're maxed, you lose one of your biggest defensive options against attacks all over the place as time goes on, or Ling run-bys in particular. Doesn't know about that Swarm host that was cooking in there. So keeping the Protoss on this composition means a switch into something like Mutalisks, or something to deal with the Colossus, such as Corruptors, is going to be very, very strong here, especially with their overall number actually getting to the point where it cuts out a lot of other units that can deal with the Corruptors. You only have 10 Stalkers here, for example. So this is it's an interesting situation, but we're gonna see how Tythorr decides to approach and how he's gonna decide to deal with it. And it looks like he's actually just going for the extremely kind of like the logical extension from the Roach Hydra army, which is to grab the Vipers and try and yank the Colossus one by one into your army. It's a very tricky style of play. Again, kind of like the Phoenixes, requires a lot of APM to make it work. If you can make it work, fantastic. If not, well, your Vipers just kind of die, and then your army gets vaporized by a bunch of lasers. So it's not, not a one-shot dealie at all. So we got one Viper at the front here, second Viper just about to join. Initial engagement goes to the Protoss, getting a lot of laser blast down in there, but is able to respond by eliminating some of the Zealots that move a little bit too far forward. Both players, again, not really willing to commit to a solid engagement just yet. Protoss looks like he wants to wait for this reinforcement pylon to finish first. And Tythorr is going to start charging up his Viper's going to move forward. It looks like he's considering yanking the Colossus, but he's moving his entire army forward to do it. Moves forward with the Vipers, tries to get something done, isn't able to quite do it though. The Vipers actually don't accomplish anything right there. Blinding Cloud or pools. It does make one pool, but it actually just kind of puts the Colossus in a position where it continues to get more damage done. Unfortunately, there's just a little bit too much moving back and forth, a little bit too little effective engagement here, and the Death Ball from Goro is just running over this army and this area. It has already taken out one base. It's going to move straight up into the natural from here. And with the setup right now, even if he's unable to kill the Zerg completely, which he should be able to, this is looking to be like a pretty deadly situation for the Zerg. Can at least wipe out the tech tree and really set his opponent far behind. Moving up into the base now as we speak. So this is a pretty nice game from two silver players. I think they've been doing a pretty nice job. Good series overall. Pretty happy with this one. It's good stuff from these two. Thing is, though, I mean, that army's just getting smaller. Every time it sees those Colossus, it just gets a little bit tinier. Even now, the army's only barely able to actually kill that Colossus off. And it looks like Goro's considering whether he just kills the army at this point or proceeds up the ramp. He's actually being a little bit almost too indecisive here, running back and forth constantly without actually accomplishing something. Boom. Down goes one upgrade. Next will fall the +3 armor. Denied. And the Hive is going to go down next. With that, the tech tree of the Zerg will fall. He's going to pull over one Colossus. Going to kind of be able to take that out. Still kind of traded effectively, though, with the way I was able to stay alive for that long. And now we have a High Templar. Shalomly High Templar moving in. Hey, I can feedback something for you guys. Really need me to. Only if you ask politely, though. Well, yeah, I think we're pretty much just waiting for Tythorr to accept what's happened here. I can't really blame him for hanging on because, sometimes you can find that miracle situation, but it's gonna be pretty tricky from here. Pretty tricky. By pretty tricky, I mean basically it's down to one base now. Protoss hasn't suffered any economic disadvantages in the back of this. He has 51 probes versus his opponent's 22 drones. His army supply triples that of the Zerg. Ow. Ow. That's not a word you get to say often in StarCraft, actually. Decent enough force fields. Push the Roaches into an awkward position. Sentry throws out the late force field, and Tythorr says, lol, GG. GG, man. Okay. Good series.